All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. My name's Ben Statler. I'm with Russell Standard, going into my 6th season in the industry. I want to talk to you folks today about chip seals, something I'm sure many of you in here are very familiar with. I will say that I do have a habit when I give these presentations of talking rather fast, so don't be afraid to throw up your hand and say, well, could you back up a little bit or slow down? Or you just sit here and let me rant really fast, you get to break faster. So it's really your call. So go ahead and get started. I talked to you today about chip seals and fog seals. All right, so chip seals, which are a form of seal coat, frequently referred to as tar and chip. It seals and waterproofs low to moderate severity cracks, raveling, and low severity bleeding. It improves skid resistance and macro texture, protect the pavement from oxidation, aging, and traffic wear. A small introduction into chip seals. It will seal minor cracks less than a 1/4 inch. I frequently do have people that will take me out to roads and say, hey, I want to get a quote on what it will cost to chip seal this road, and you're looking at big inch wide cracks, and I usually tell them, chip seal's not for this unless you want to crack seal it first. So something to keep in mind. It does extend the average service life of existing pavement for 2 to 8 years. I'm sure you all have seen the chart that has the average life of a road and how it declines after the first so many years. Chip seals tend to bring that up on an average of 5 to 6 years, depending on traffic. Corrects deficiencies such as raveling, flushing, and aged and oxidized pavements. So here you see a small diagram of what a single seal looks like. Chip seal is at the heart of pavement preservation. It consists of layers of asphalt emulsions, which we just all heard about, and aggregate on top. The basics there are the emulsion itself is actually sealing the road and protecting it from water and weather, and the stones are what's keeping it from getting pulled up whenever you're driving over it or walking over it. This particular visual has fog seal on top of it, which I'm going to go into later on, but that's a great addition to most chip seals. A double chip seal is pretty much exactly what it sounds like when you're using multiple layers of emulsion and stone. Now the aggregate can vary. A lot of people will put down one layer, commonly CRS2P emulsion that we talked about earlier, with aggregate on top, frequently number 8s. Some folks will use a layer of 8s and then a layer of 9s to give it a more firm top where the 8s will fall into, or I'm sorry, the 9s will fall in with the 8s. Now that's entirely dependent on the road you're dealing with and the type of traffic you have. Again, it's one of the tools in the toolbox. My company particularly, we're usually using 2 layers of 8s whenever we're doing a double chip seal, but again, it varies. A triple chip seal, again, same thing. You're going with 3 layers, sandwiching in that CRS2P along with the aggregate for 3 layers instead of 2. Again, your aggregate can be similar, or you can have different size aggregates so that they fall together a little better, like there are here in this illustration. The benefits of double seal versus single seal, you're getting extra scaling properties, you're covering more imperfections, and it's more durable. Triple seal versus single and double, same thing, you're getting extra sealing properties, you're covering more imperfections, more durable, but not substantially over double seal. It's a little bit quieter. You get a darker appearance. It tightens up the surface and looks more like an HMA overlay, since the last layer is usually smaller aggregates, nines, that fill the voids like I had spoken about a minute ago. Some of the limitations you're going to deal with, it does not strengthen the existing pavement. Again, another thing I hear frequently from folks, hey, can I get this chip sealed? I want to, toughen up my pavement, make it stronger. That's not what it's there for. It is there to preserve it, to protect it, but you're not gaining extra strength. It does not increase load-bearing capacities, i.e. like truck traffic, that sort of thing. It does not smooth rough pavement. In fact, chip seals are frequently used because of the advantage of having more skid resistance to them. It does not bridge cracks wider than 1/4 inch, like I mentioned earlier. It does not address ruts greater than 1/2 inch in depth. It does not eliminate the need for maintenance or reconstruction. Again, it is a preservation tool. Good candidates for chip seal: minor cracking, loss of fines, flushing, loss of friction, oxidation. Again, when you're going into application rates or that sort of thing, whenever you're chipping these roads, these are things you want to keep in mind. Your poor candidates, again, large cracks, structural issues, rutting. These types of things aren't going to get fixed by a chip seal. Cracks again, and structural issues. So you see here photographs of what these roads look like. Those pictures on the left, those cracks much too wide. If you were to just chip seal that road without doing some form of crack seal first, you're going to get reflective cracking. Might not show up right away. The road might look fine at first, but within a year's time, I'd say you'll start to see where those cracks are in the chip seal. Same thing with the picture to the right. Those structural issues, alligator cracking, that's not something a chip seal is going to be able to fix. Your site selection. The ideal substrate has 1/8 cracks or less. Hot mix or previously chip sealed and gravel roads are good candidates. Dirt roads require priming and specific emulsions like MC70 or E1 Prime. And basic reason for that is with the CRS2P especially, whenever you're putting that directly on dirt, it'll have a habit of beating up and won't hold your stone. No structural or deformation failures, i.e. base damage or rutting. These sort of things aren't going to get fixed with a chip seal. No moderate to high cracking and no base failures. Adequate structure is required to make sure that your chip seal doesn't fall apart. The emulsion selection. Rapid set is for typical surfaces. You'd want to use a medium set for dirtier surfaces, high float for dirt or dirt-like surfaces, and extremely dirty aggregates. Polymer, the P or the L, and the emulsions are better for traffic resistance. PennDOT approved chip seal emulsions. Both anionic and cationic emulsions are accepted. Most PA manufacturers have a cationic readily available. It's dictated by stone sources in the area. Again, when you're talking cationic versus anionic, you want that opposite charge of what your aggregate source is. A lot of the aggregates here in Pennsylvania have a negative charge to them, so a positive cationic charge will bond to it better. But again, it's a case-by-case basis. You want to make sure you're getting compatibility testing with your aggregates before you decide on what you're going to use, whether it be emulsions or stone. And here you see some of the, it breaks down the RS2 for anionic rapid set, CRS2 for cationic rapid set. and so on. Aggregate selection. When you're talking about your stone, cleanliness is important. Dusty aggregate will prevent bonding with the binder. Again, when I talked about putting CRS2P on dirt roads, the beating that it will cause, you can have the same effect whenever you're using dirty aggregate. It should have 1% or less passing the 200 sieve test, as was covered in the last presentation. You should be using washed aggregate or change the emulsion type, depends, through proper mix designs and compatibility testing. So you see the photographs here. The dirty aggregate led to a lot of stone loss in these pictures. The emulsion just coated the fines instead of the aggregate, so it's sticking to the dirt, not the stone. You want to have the site cleared of vegetation and debris, carcasses, oil stains, dirts. You want to ensure that there is an absence of hydraulic fluids on the surface prior and during construction. It can break down and eat away at the emulsion. That's something I've seen before too. If you're not, if you've got hydraulic fluid or diesel fuel on the road, that'll eat away at your emulsion, and it'll cause failures in the future. You'll want to seal all cracks that are 1/8 of an inch or greater, ideally 30 days or more in advance. You want to, if you're using like a crack seal, you want to make sure it has plenty of time to fill in and dry before you're chipping over it. You want to broom and clean the day prior of the chip seal if possible. Again, I don't recommend chipping over roadkill. It does tend to cause your chip seal to fail quicker. You see in the photograph here, they don't hold the same standards whenever line painting apparently. So, ideal weather, 60 degrees Fahrenheit and rising. Wind is helpful and no rain for 24 hours. So today would be a bad day to be out chip sealing. High humidity will slow your cure. You want to make sure your nozzle fan and alignment are correct. 30-degree angles are ideal. No water washing out or dust clouds or dump trucks or chipper. Again, something to be mindful for if you're filling your dump trucks up with recently washed stone. Sometimes you can get an excess amount of water in the truck, which could cause issues with the finished job. Make sure your spray bars are 12 to 14 inches off the ground. 150 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit are good temperatures for the emulsion. You want about 150 feet apart maximum between the chipper and the distributor, not too fast, not too slow. Again, this is going to vary when you're out on the job site. That's ideal, but use weather conditions and your surroundings to use your best judgment. Determine how the liquid is applied and how to track quantity, nozzle pattern gauges, and sticking in the tank. Most of the distributors I think that you guys deal with are computer generated. It's telling you what your application rate is right there on the computer. Make sure it's properly calibrated before you go out onto the job site. Also make sure the tires are not picking up freshly chipped mat. All right, now I'm going to go into fog seals. Just a general overview on fog seals. Their main purpose is to reduce dust, maintain stone retention. It will add to the life of your chip seal, but a big benefit is aesthetics, how nice it looks. I've told this story many times, and if you've already heard it, I'm sorry. But, chip seals are not super popular among residents. They tend to complain a lot, as I'm sure all of you have heard before. There has been neighborhoods where our crews have gone in, we've chip sealed. We're getting calls from township supervisors who are complaining. The residents are upset. Obviously they don't want to chip seal, but they're complaining to us. We will fog seal these very same roads 2 weeks later, and the same residents will call their township supervisor and say, hey, thank you so much for paving that road. We hated that chip seal, so good work. Obviously, it wasn't paved, it was just fog sealed over, but that black look, aesthetic to it, really won over the residents in that neighborhood. For all the science and everything I want to tell you on how these fog seals look good, that purpose alone is enough to make it very valuable. All right, going into application. You want to use a light application of low residue asphalt emulsion. You don't want the road to be too far gone. Polished surface is not good. It needs open voids to penetrate. Treat early, ideally a few weeks following the chip seal. Now, as all of you know, and we just talked about, when you are chipping, it's going to be sort of a rough surface. It should absorb the fog seal so that it adheres to the stone and it doesn't make too slick of a surface whenever you're done. It will help control the UV and water unraveling and loose chips. It does extend the service life of the pavement. It locks down loose chips and prevents windshield damage. Increases the visibility of line striping. Drives public acceptance of chip seal and preventative maintenance. Like I said, those residents are thinking the road was paved, and the reality is you got all that done at a quarter of your cost. It significantly improves the aesthetics, taking gravel-looking roads and making them look like a hot mix. Here's a visual. On your left here, you have a chip-sealed road and one lane that has been fog sealed. So you can tell right there the vast difference. You look at the photograph on the right, and just from looking at this picture, you can't really tell if that's a paved road or a chip-sealed road. Now, in real life, I'm sure everybody in here could probably look down, get close enough and tell whether that's an overlay or a chip seal, but most residents can't. And the aesthetic and the extra life you're getting added onto your chip seal makes it worth the while. There are several different types of fog seals. Their standard is a CSS 1H, which is also used for tack. Typically, you're going to dilute that before you use it as a fog seal so that it will dry faster and be more ideal to get back to traffic quickly. Better than that would be a CSS 1HP, which is the same thing with polymer modified. That's going to add extra binding to your fog seal, give it more of a gloss to it also. Best is Grip Tight. We call it Grip Tight Russell Standard. That's the brand we use, but all the other companies, they have ones that are similar to the Grip Tight that meet the same spec for PennDOT. It's a rapid set. It's set up within 30 minutes or less for quick return to traffic. It's the longest lasting of the fog seals, and it's best for stone retention, locking the chips in place. Here again, some more photographs of before and afters with chip seals. Roadresource.org. This probably got covered yesterday, I'm not sure, but it's a great tool for using to get an idea of what the best treatment for your roads are when it comes to pavement preservation. I went through that a lot, very fast, faster than I thought I would as predicted. So are there any questions? Yes, sir.
What's your standard application rate for a fog seal?
Fog seals are going to be around, sorry, I'm always used to that question being on a chip seal. 0.1, 0.2, yes.
I think that a lot of it has to do with the surface texture of the road you're chip sealing. Is it a smoother road? You might have a lower rate. Hey, is it a more cubical rock that allows a higher rate? So there can be a range of application rates depending on the surface you're fog sealing.
Thank you, Terry. Yes, it's just like with the CRS2P when you're chipping. You want to know the type of surface you're dealing with. As he said, if it's more coarse, you want a higher one. If it's shinier, lower. So, but it's always going to be less than what you would apply CRS2P for on a chip seal. It's going to be a light application rate. Yes, sir.
What would be your current standard for ADT rates on these products? Highest ADT, you're doing
That's a good question. I'll have to get back to you on that one. Yes, sir.
Assuming that epoxy paint needs to be eradicated prior to application, can you leave the waterborne paint down?
That's also another good question. As far as the type of line stripings, is that what you're talking about? Typically, whenever we're chip sealing, it might go without line striping until after we've fog sealed, but I know that does create an issue. Some places they have a standard where it has to be painted immediately, but you don't want to fog until 2 weeks or so after the chips have time to
I think you
cure.
wanted removal. When do you remove? Is it, can you leave your paint, or do you need to remove paint, or just remove epoxy?
Depends on the paint, because we had an issue in West Virginia that I was on a job site for, where they were using, and I don't remember the name of it. It was that it had the little bit of glitter in it, and we had delamination over the center line. Again, I'm going to come over and talk to both of you guys here when we're done. I'll get you my card and I can find out. Yeah, yeah. And again, ideally, if possible, don't line paint until after you fog sealed, but I know that's not always an option, so. Other questions? Yes, sir.
A couple additional things related to fog seals in general. First of all, through PAAMA and our QIC, we worked through our specifications with fog seals, and the first thing we did was we actually created what we call a fast break material, which ultimately allowed us to use NPT as an approved material for fog seals. So that was one thing that came in. The other thing that we did with that spec is it also allowed for proprietary products, but there's a process that we have to go through in order to have those proprietary products approved for use. So, I want to make sure everybody keeps that in mind. The other thing that we were doing is we had a team that was made up of members from each district around the state, and we created basically a guidance document related to fog seals as well. And that guidance document, we actually did it through Rex and PAAMA as well for comments, and it's actually completed. It's in my inbox to get over to Dan and Krista, which I apologize because I've been traveling so much, but I'm going to get that to them here relatively quickly, and that will be coming out very soon as well. So fog seals in general, I know that many of us around the state have been basically dabbling in fog seals. There was a lot of interest where we could use it, that kind of stuff. We had a lot of policy out there, so we, again, to try to simplify it, provide some guidance, we created a nice simple guidance document that will be out to everybody as well. So just wanted everybody to understand we did update the spec to include the use of NTT. Prior to that, it was only the SS1H, but we wanted something that would set faster, so we included NTT. And again, as anybody's working through, if there are proprietary products, there's a process we just need to follow through. And then, like I said, just to reiterate, we have a nice guidance document to help everybody as well. And then, of course, the last part is if anybody is interested in getting into, some fog seals, naturally, reach out to me and we can, help you along the way. The other caveat I would say is I know that, and I know that this has been talked about, I know that there are a lot of uses of fog seals. Right now, as a department, basically what we can do is use a fog seal over a chip seal, and that's really about it. Now, we and the team that we have with members around the state, the first part we wanted to do was a guidance document for fog seals over chip seals. Now we're getting into discussions on other uses of fog seals, such as possibly where we have 19 millimeter, for example, that might be weathering over winter, maybe doing a fog on that, and then, of course, chipping it next year and stuff like that. But unfortunately, our policies have us kind of constrained to fog seals over chip seals only at this time. But we understand there's other uses, and we're gonna be working with Rex and PAAMA, as well as, basically statewide, team to get to that. So just wanted to share those couple things, and I apologize.
Oh, no, it's fine. Thank you. No, appreciate it.
Everybody understand where we're at with that.
I think there was a question over here. Yes, sir.
Just wondering if it's possible to install it sooner than a couple weeks after the chip goes in.
It's possible, but not what you would call best practices, because when you're doing a chip seal, you want your oil to cure and give it proper time to do that. If you're putting a fog seal over top of it before it's fully done that, you're going to get some bleeding and maybe some smooth areas where you're not going to have as much skid resistance. Sure. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben.